if it's going to tick along.
Yeah,
We're live, that'll do it. I'm guessing
we're
I'm
live.
sounding fine as well. We should have done this before we went live, to be honest, but that
Doesn't
is
matter, does it?
because we are on the Christmas special stream. Hello, everyone. And it is
Hello.
very specifically on the topic of A Tale of Two Cities. Now, you might think, I don't read Dickens, I don't understand Dickens. I've not read this either. However, you'll understand in a minute. A Tale of Two Cities is the story of a two-class society, the happy rich and the dissatisfied poor. Those that need to obey justice and those that are wealthy enough to ignore it. Of passion and courage, and then disinterest in the status quo. On a completely unrelated note, this is Brendan. Brendan's a Man City fan. So, hello, the rich side of the Tale of Two Cities. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I don't feel very rich, but yeah, no.
Yeah, but your
We're not
cup
having a
is
great
good
time
enough. It's
either.
good enough. Oh, I'm sorry. That might have been my fault.
Poor Leeds United.
I mean, it's that or pretend that I support Blackpool, and I just sort of don't because it's really hard to do that.
Yeah, no one should have to suffer that.
Yeah, I'm a whole 5 minute walk away from the ground, and even that's a little bit much
Yeah,
to
actually.
pretend to be interested in Blackpool. Yeah, it's not that far, but I've just realised I completely forgot to turn on the monetization on the stream, so let's get that sorted out immediately. There we
Apologies if
go.
there's any background
It's all good.
noise.
It's fine. It's Christmas. There's people everywhere.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Everything's set up. So, I've been bouncing between this channel and the Joe Blackburn one for a little while, for the last few days, weeks. Still trying to work out long-term strategy bits. So, most of the Leedsy stuff will still be over on Joe Blackburn. I'll do generalist bits here, maybe a weekly podcast or something whilst we try and work stuff out. But yeah, it's fine. Anyway, this specific stream is, as mentioned, A Tale of Two Cities. Leeds fan, Man City fan. I know very little about the Premier League this season because I've been putting all my time and effort into the hellscape that is the Championship. Brendan knows nothing about the Championship. To the extent of which, in terms of the Premier League stuff, you can vouch for the fact that I haven't touched my fantasy league team since like 2 weeks into the season, can't you?
No, I've been surprised since Leeds went down. I thought you'd still be sort of petering around checking it out, but you've actually completely abandoned us in the Premier League.
I don't
So
give a shit. That's the thing. I realised that, like, top of the table stuff, that's still reasonably interesting. You've still got, like, at least Villa are trying to do something, but outside of that,
yeah,
it's like, well, the same three teams are going down. When we go back up, it's going to be identical, except maybe in Ipswich.
I don't know. I'm quite interested by the bottom. I think you're probably right, but I think Luton are putting up quite a fight. Forest have struggled a little bit. I think there are teams slipping. I think Palace are really struggling at the moment. Obviously, they got a nice result than that, so they can't take too much credit.
You can quite easily take credit when you beat Man City, even if it's especially if it's
Draw.
undeserved. No, I mean we definitely deserved it when we won.
Oh,
Yeah, you can't take credit for a draw.
yeah.
You can for a win. That's how it works. That's how it all adds up.
Yeah,
So,
that's fair.
as a very quick disclaimer, we don't know that much about each other's respective leagues. So, this is basically going to be conversation about how our respective teams are doing, and ultimately we're going to just peace to all mankind on Christmas. Stuart Dallas can take the credit. Stuart Dallas can absolutely take the credit for beating Manchester City.
Stuart Dallas
We
can
did
do
it with
one.
10 men. We didn't even need an entire squad. We just did it with 10. Easy. Piece of piss. So, we're going to start by discussing each of the club's season so far. So, Brendan, would you like to start with Man City in the Premier League and how? I mean, I've not been keeping track, but I'm going to assume you're completely walking away at the top of the table as always, aren't you? That's always what happens.
I've always said that this is a bit of a myth. We don't usually walk away with it, especially not this far. Usually we're behind, even if that's due to games in hand. It's been a weird one for us. It's sort of, if 1 minute it feels disastrous and the next minute you're sort of going, oh, actually it's not that bad. We've got, obviously we just won the Club World Cup. even if you don't care about that, it does give us a game in hand on the Premier League. And if we win that game in hand, we're only 3 points off the top. But it feels a lot worse when the most recent results are, a 4-4 draw at Stamford Bridge, which we just decided we didn't really fancy defending in the last sort of half hour of the game. Palace, there was one team in it for 85 minutes, and then just sort of looked again like we just gave up a bit, really. I think Liverpool game was difficult because you'd sort of take a draw against Liverpool, but I thought we were a bit harshly sort of denied a goal from a corner where Kanji is judged to block, and I think Kanji does very little, but that's the Premier League. Goalkeepers get protected. And I'm trying to think the other. Oh, Spurs was the other result. Again, I was pretty happy with the performance. It was just they took their chances and we just didn't really defend that well. But that one was less hard to take than I think Chelsea and Palace. Those games, it was just defensive capitulation. It was just shocking.
Right. So I'm sort of, I don't know where you sit on this one. Is the Club World Cup a real competition? Because it's sort of a global community shield where the teams from Africa, Asia sort of piss about a little bit, and then South America and Europe come in, and then we do the final no matter what happens. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It's not a
well,
real trophy, is it?
no, it's sort of weird where it's an achievement, but it's more just the achievement that you're there is because you've won the other competitions. When Liverpool and Chelsea were winning it, I really, couldn't give a single shit. I think, yeah, a strange one. I think we were playing. Was it kind of a I get confused between a Fluminense or Flamengo. I think it was Fluminense.
I think it was
With a 40-year-old.
or something, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And we had a 40-year-old Felipe Melo on the other side, and it was an interesting game in a way because they were sort of building out from the back, but they would have 8 players in their own third, which I think is even Pep Guardiola might get a bit anxious about. Didn't help them in the end.
No, they lost. Was it 4-0?
4-0, yeah, 4-0. Can't complain.
Oh, I really liked that scoreline for some reason this weekend. So
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
on that note, we've got Leeds in the Championship. So far, it's been an adventure. It's been typically, and I know that you've never had to deal with this, because A, you're about 3 years old, and B, you support Man City. In the Championship, rule of thumb, 90 points probably gets you promoted. We've played 23 out of 46. We've got 45 points. Can someone please explain why we're still 7 points off the promotion places? It's pain at the moment. The fact is we're so consistently good and we're so much better than most of the teams that we play that whenever we drop points, it feels like we've let ourselves down in a weird way. It's bizarre because we're currently a club that is having one of the better starts, and any other season gets you promoted. But it feels like it's just sort of like pointless because if we end up third anyway, we've still got to do the playoffs. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, I think the sort of the way that I tend to judge whether a team is behind where they probably should be is quite basic, but I think goal difference actually is a really broad metric. And you look at obviously yours to Ipswich. I know Ipswich, to be fair, did just concede 4, so it maybe adds a bit of recency bias. But I believe you've got 19 plus, and they're on 15 plus, and I think from previous seasons, from even just watching City try and climb back to the top early in the season, you can sort of feel like the momentum might start to swing your way if you've got that goal difference. I think by the end of the season, it will be a bit more neck and neck for second and third. I think for Leicester, it's done, isn't it, really? I can't see Leicester not making a promotion spot, let alone winning it.
It's a weird one, though, because Ipswich and Leicester play each other twice in the next month. First on Boxing Day, then on, I think, the 23rd of January or something weird like that. So either Leicester win twice. If we win both of those, we're just a point behind Ipswich. Fantastic. Ipswich win twice, and then suddenly Leicester are only 4 points away. it's bizarre. And then we've got whatever the hell Southampton are doing because they're neck and neck with us, but you don't notice Southampton because it's Southampton. Who gives a shit?
Yeah,
But go on.
I was gonna say, I going into the season, I was actually really worried for Southampton. I really, once they understandably got rid of Ward-Prowse and Lavia for fees, I just didn't really love the talent in that squad. I think they got rid of. Am I right in thinking they got rid of Bellecourt as well? Is that right? I think they
I don't
might have
remember
loaned him.
seeing Bella Copchap. I think he
I
might
think
be
they might have loaned him out or
Bundesliga.
sold him. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think he returned, but either way, I think the talent in the surprised me how well they're doing.
Yeah.
But they're again sort of not to overvalue it, but they're not doing incredibly on the goal difference either. Kind of suggests that it's a bit of a they're winning on narrow results really, and that can sort of really push out in the season.
1 second. You don't think of Southampton? It says 4 next to them. Yeah, that's true. We've not quite been we've been in worse spots than they have when we had players going on strike and actively hating the club, which was irritating. But we're here now.
Very funny.
We're fine. It's all good. It was very funny looking back on it, but at the time it was crisis, crisis, crisis. So, how are the fan bases feeling? How are City fans at the minute? Because I think our current spot's a little bit complex, and I sort of want to know because I think we're in sort of similar spots, except I think we're handling it better than your lot.
Yeah, I think it depends, obviously, fan to fan, but a lot of what I see isn't necessarily just concern at the results. It's more concerns about how do we fix it. You sort of see there's a massive gap where Gundogan used to be, and that gap every single week feels more noticeable. When Rodri's out, we had this last season, I think, a little bit where Rodri just missed a couple of games, and Gundogan stepped in. His role was to help them come from defence to attack and to not lose the ball. Late in games, it feels like we just can't really do it without Rodri anymore, and even with he's a bit bored at times. Still waiting for some of the new signings to really get bedded in, like Nunes, Kovacic as well. Started against Burnley in the first game of the season, really hasn't been seen that much since. It's just a bit of confusion for what's the plan to change it, because at the moment we're really attacking mid, and as much as I love it, it does mean that we've got players like Alvarez, Foden, Doku, Lewis on, and they're not all particularly great defensively. And that is a concern.
So, as you're aware, this channel has a quite heavy Leedsy audience. Why did you break Calvin? What did you do?
We didn't break Calvin.
Well, I don't know. He was fine here, and then he went there, and suddenly he's broken.
Those injuries have knackered him, and every time I've watched him, and he was coming back from injury, I did really want him to do well. I was hoping he'd play a bit more, and then every time he stepped onto the pitch, it was just really painful to watch. He just doesn't seem to track his man anymore, which is weird because he used to play in a man-to-man. Just doesn't seem capable of chasing it. There was a great example in our last Champions League. Had the kids up, and he's playing well for about 60 minutes, 70 minutes, and we concede late on, and he's just in the middle of the pitch jogging back, and they're on a counter attack, and I just think, what are you like? What is it? Just because you're checked out? Is it because you're just, I don't know, you're just lacking confidence? What is it? But I think there's sort of multiple things. He doesn't get a lot of games, plays badly because he's probably not match fit, because he's not had the game time. And then it's like, how can you justify putting him on when basically we need to win 25 plus Premier League games at least, really? My math might be off, but you get the point. The Champions League's a perfect example. You slip up in one game and suddenly you're in the second spot and you're playing Real Madrid in the last 16. So, yeah, it's difficult to see what's gone wrong, really.
I think
everything.
And I don't know if this is like a excessively surface level analysis sort of thing, but I think when people say impressive stats like Rodri's played 65 matches this year, you sort of look at it and go, I mean, you've played Luton a few times, you've played Burnley, played Bournemouth. If only there were other footballers in Rodri's position where he wouldn't need to play 60 plus games. And then he's played
Wow.
matches and he's match fit and he knows what he's able to do. And it's sort of a cycle where if you don't bother to play him, he's going to get worse, and then you don't bother to play him because he's worse.
You're right, but I think Luton's actually a really good example. I don't know if we win that game if we play Calvin Phillips. Luton played really well. I thought we were in control. It wasn't a bad performance, even for just a narrow 2-1 win. But you get to that last sort of 25 minutes, and obviously Luton can just go for it because they're 2-1 down. And Rodri really was stepping up big time for us, whether it was getting the ball out from defence or whether it was just instructing players where to go. I don't think Calvin Phillips has that authority. City. I don't think Calvin Phillips can pull Foden aside and sort of shout at him for not fouling someone 35 yards out. I think it's just the nature of the Premier League now, is that, and especially playing away with City, where it's quite delicate. You either are on it or you're off. I just think it's just about risk, but it does. It's a shame. It's a real big shame that it's not worked out.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a sort of long-term thing where if you're behind a world-class player, every world-class footballer needs to play football to stay world-class. And there was
Yeah,
that period for Phillips where he was our best midfielder at the Euros in a Euros year where we got to the final. So clearly he's got it in him. But it's like if you chuck an F1 car in the garage, don't touch it for 3 years and then go, it should be fine, right? I'll take it for a spin. No, that's how
I'm
you
skeptical
Mazepin yourself.
of international football, but I do agree that what he showed in that Euros, he was better than Declan Rice was brilliant in that Euros, but Calvin Phillips probably was our best player. So it's definitely, it's definitely something's been lost, and whether that's just a result of injuries or matches or both. I do hope it goes well for him. I hope that in January we can find somewhere for him. There's talk that he could go to Juventus. There's been talk for a while that there's interest from Newcastle. I don't really see that happening,
I think
but they have
Newcastle
got
just makes sense, to be honest, though, right? They've got a big hole there.
I don't. Yes and no. He can pass it to the level they need. He quite likes vertical passing, and he can also. He's a bit like Bruno Guimaraes. He doesn't really mind kicking the shit out of someone, really, if he needs to. My excuse my language, but he does.
Oh,
He can do that.
this is always such a
Yeah,
PG channel, otherwise, isn't
I
it?
know, but he does.
Um,
He doesn't mind doing that. But I just don't know because Newcastle just play at such a high pace all game. I just don't know if he can do that. I think West Ham kind of makes sense if they decide Souček's not the one or Souček needs assistance. I think that kind of makes sense as well. And with David Moyes, you look at how they played at West Ham. He doesn't need against United. You don't need to be sprinting about all game. You can sort of turn it off and on. That kind of makes sense for me.
yeah. So we've sort of dipped into it, but thoughts for January? Are City going to do anything? Because I know on our end we're probably looking at get a left back in, because that is just for some reason we've not had an actual left back since Barry Douglas, and even then he wasn't our first choice left back.
I
We
don't
need
even
a
know
number
those.
10. Yeah, exactly. He plays for Poznan now, I think, maybe? Can't remember. Scottish left back was a set piece merchant that didn't score as a single set piece. Outside of that, probably a 10, but I'm probably going to have this conversation in my own stream in like an hour or so when I do some more Football Manager as like a why not on my channel. But what
Yeah.
are you thinking for City?
Well, we tend to really avoid business in January, aside from sort of acquiring the next 4 or 5 years. But I think there'll be temptation. There'll be temptation maybe to look back at Paquetá if the situation with him has been clarified by the FA, or if they can get some sort of assurances, I think he might. They might look at him again. He has got a release clause in the summer. So you think maybe if you chuck them a bit more, maybe they're forced to do it now. But I think because the way their season's going, they're doing quite well, in contention for Europa League spots and conference spots. I think they'll probably say, no, we'll figure it out in the summer. Other than that, I can't really see it. I'd really like to see us actually get a fullback of some sort, preferably a right back, because as much as I love Kyle Walker, sometimes watching him trying to put a cross into the box or play near the byline can really be infuriating. There was against Crystal Palace, he was honestly must have had about 30 times where he tried to cross it in, and it was just painful. I don't see us doing a lot of business. If we do, it'll be one player and a bunch of kids. That'll be it.
Yeah. Afternoon, Danny, by the way. I'll be doing a stream on my own channel in a little bit, which is going to go on longer than what we have for the remainder of this, because we're coming into the last section, which is some nice blind predictions. I know shit all about the Premier League. Brendan knows shit all about the Championship. So, what better to do than to have some wonderful guesses as to what is going to happen for the rest of their respective seasons. So, I've got a rule. You're allowed 2 questions for the other person. Outside of that, you're on your own. Time to make some guesses. So, first up, I'm going to start with Manchester City. I'm going to make my predictions. My first question, how fucked are you without Rodri? And is he actually properly injured?
Well, the second bit I'll deal first. No, apparently after the game against Fluminense, unlucky. Apparently after that game, he said he got really lucky, didn't take any sort of serious damage. I would expect him to see him in the next game, maybe not, but I think he'll be fine now. And without him, I think it really does. It really tears the team apart. I think this is the thing. I think there's maybe the potential that because he's been missing, that maybe we do look for something in January. Just because it's I've said for a while now. I think I said it last season. I think he's more important to City than Kevin De Bruyne, and I love Kevin De Bruyne. The best attacking midfielder, maybe the Premier League's ever. I just think we lose more games without Rodri. We can sort of deal without De Bruyne.
Yeah. And second question, what do I go for? How confident would you be in a match against Aston Villa?
Was at home. I'd say I'd give us after that last game. It's hard to be super confident, but I'd still say, I'd give us like a 75% chance to win that game, 10% the rest of the loss. I'd still back us. I'd still back us.
In that case, I think I'm going to say City come third behind Liverpool and Villa in some order. I think Arteta collapses a bit. Wow. Because Arteta's always on the brink of a mental breakdown of some form. It's just the specific form varies a little bit from time to time. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. I think also we'll get Ten Hag sacked before the end of the season, because that's very funny. I don't know if they've got the patience to keep Pochettino at Chelsea. I'm going to check the score. Wolves are winning! Hey! Yeah, I'll go with that. Pochettino gone, Ten Hag gone, City third. Sod it. Villa to win the league, and the current bottom 3 stay in the bottom 3.
I know that we're not talking about United, but I think Ten Hag's situation is really interesting because
One second. United. There's one of those. There is United, and there is Scum.
Sorry, yeah, Scum United.
No. One of the words. You don't get to do both.
The Old Trafford Scum, I think, are interesting, just because I think this is probably the worst start to. Well, it is the worst start to a Premier League season I think they've ever had, and it doesn't look like he's going to get sacked. that's not what we're talking about. But I think the takeover really, really adds a lot of confusion about control United at the moment.
Yeah. The fact that they can't really do anything because I mean this is where we were at the start of the season. We weren't able to like bring Farker in because we didn't have an actual like owner at that point. I want to see them stuck in that exact same problem. That'd be wonderful. Worth a quid on Villa winning the league, if only to annoy the big six.
Absolutely.
I think I agree. Yeah, let's change things up a bit. Let's get zesty. Why not? So we've gone through the fact that I've watched a little bit of Premier League football this season. I've had my predictions. Your turn. What are you predicting for Leeds United for the rest of the season? And give me your Leeds player of the season if you had to completely guess out of nowhere. No Googling. We've agreed this before.
Okay, fine.
You've still got your two questions, though.
I'll caveat this by saying I've only really watched about 2 games. I think one of them was a 1-1 draw early in the season, maybe against Southampton. Can't remember if that's right.
No, we got battered by Southampton.
Maybe I'm wrong then. Maybe it was another side that went. Either way, I think you'll go neck and neck with Ipswich, and I think you might actually. I'm going to say I'm going to predict you'll snatch second, and I think Ipswich will be forced to go through the playoff pain. I just think when I look at Leeds' squad, even when you went down, and I knew there was going to be a bit of a fight. There's the experience of the players that have gone up before, and there's the experience that play at a higher level. So I think you'll snatch it. And I think if I had to guess player of the season, this is a bit of a tough one really, because I only really know a few of them that have really been taken off. I'm going to go for Joel Peru. I've probably butchered that, but I think he'll.
You're not far off on the pronunciation. I'm just surprised by your pick, to be honest.
Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I know that you're quite enjoying Ritter at the moment, because he is starting to shine after we sort of watched him really not play or do anything in the Premier League. Thanks, Big Sam.
The big gravy man who ruined Rutte.
Yeah, the man who hates ticky-tacky football. Yeah, I think I've only seen a little bit of Joel Peru, but I quite like what I've seen. I think he's a player who's sort of come out of really sort of nowhere. I don't think I'm really in the Premier League sort of fan, probably myself included. But yeah, I don't know. I'm going for Peru, but I reckon you'll go Ritter.
Yeah, I'm not being persuaded. Somerville can score as many goals as he wants. Peru can score as many goals as he wants. Rutte's making them all, so fuck you.
That's fair enough.
I'll take it. It's fine. Anyway, I think we are going to bring a tale of two cities / a tale of. I don't know. I figured Leeds is a one club city, Man City. It'd work, but I can't twist it.
We're the most important club in Manchester anyway.
I thought that was Salford City. No?
Owned by Gary Neville.
Oh, I forgot about that. Shit. But I can't think of any other football clubs in Manchester because they all just fold. Anyway. I'm going to end the stream there. Hope you enjoyed. In about an hour, I'll be over on my channel doing a Football Manager stream. Is there anything you want to plug, Brendan? Or?
No, I mean, I can always say check out our articles, my articles in particular, for Last Word on Football or Last Word on Sport. If you like hating on Manchester United, you'll probably quite like my work, because while I try and be objective, it's quite easy to be quite negative about Manchester United, and I know Leeds fans love that. So go check out my article. I just graded all their summer signings, so you can see what I think of their new batch of players.
And a final question for the stream. We both know, we've had this conversation, that I have no idea what I'm going to have for tea because I've got recording, streaming, then work to do. We knew it was a Just Eat job. I'm going to leave it up to you. Pizza or a slightly dodgy peri-peri place?
Is the pizza? I'm adding a bit of nuance here.
The pizza is also from a slightly dodgy place, but it's less notedly dodgy?
Pizza then.
Pizza.
Just
Okay.
because dodgy chicken, not great. Dodgy pizza, you can survive. You may even slightly enjoy it.
It depends on how dodgy the pizza is.
True, but it's not chicken. You don't want
That's
bad chicken on Christmas Day.
That's true. Yeah. Right. Anyway, thank you for popping along. Join
Thanks,
me on
man.
my stream in an hour or so. I'm going to be doing Football Manager. Shout names of Wonder Kids at me and I'll probably buy them. And yeah, hope you enjoyed. See you later.